Good evening, everybody, and very, very honored and delighted to be part of this very special occasion, the launch of Sanjay Subramaniam's memoirs. On that note, co-written with Krupa Ge. So I'm just going to take you all to a particular moment some years ago in Trivandrum, or Thiruvananthapuram, as it is called today. So there is this wonderful old palace called Kudira Maliga, and Sanjay was singing there, and I'd gone for that concert. And this is a very, very, kind of old-fashioned kind of a place. And given the name of the palace, so I was told that earlier the king's horses used to be tied there, and I walk in there and I get this very strong whiff of horses. And I thought I was imagining it. And then someone told me that the police horses were brought there now. And so, that's why you get the smell of the horses all the time. And then there's this beautiful place, and they have those toranams hung, and there are hanging lamps, and Sanjay starts singing, and it's the most surreal experience. In fact, I've always thought about it as something that one aspires to when one goes to a music concert, where everything falls into place beautifully, which is where the atmosphere is phenomenal. And as he's singing, there is this person who comes and adjusts the wicks of the lamps, and whichever wick has gone off, he will light it. And so that's happening on the side. And there is this person sitting there, and it's an open, almost like an open air concert. And it was one of the most spectacular concerts that I've ever been to. And especially because I thought it was, one of the best concerts that I've ever attended, and that of Sanjay's. So, so I went when Krupa wrote to me and said if I would be in conversation with her and Sanjay for this event, and I readily said yes for two reasons. One, of course, is that I've been a great admirer of Sanjay's music right from the time I've been listening to Carnatic music seriously, which is like now almost about 15 years. And Kripa is also a mentee. She was part of my writing program. And to this day, I remember this story that she wrote about this little girl, Kutipurna, which is one of my favorite stories. And I keep waiting for it to be published at some point. So the combination of two people whose work I admire, and them coming together to write a memoir which is about a life in music, was something that I couldn't say no to, not if I was in my right mind. And so here I am, and I'm very, very happy to be part of this wonderful evening and to be in conversation with the two of them. I'd like to start off by talking about this whole thing about writing memoirs. Now, so I noticed that you've mentioned that in the book as well, that you like reading biographies very much, and that's a specific genre that I like reading as well, and especially those of creative people. I'm not very interested in astronauts and politicians and so on, but creative people, yes, because all the time I think it's something that as a creative person you look for trying to understand why is it that we do what we do. And so you look at biographies of creative people to try and get a sense of that. So some of my favorite biographies have been, or memoirs have been Neil Simon's Rewrites or The Play Must Go On. There is one by Isadora Duncan, and there's another one by Lauren Bacall. So there are multiple, memoirs or biographies, or even sometimes autobiographies by the person themselves. But a memoir is, in that sense, a little more less in detail because it's purely written from the point of view of the person who's writing it, and doesn't have too much room for other things happening around. So it's truly an exploration of the writer, or the musician, or the painter, or the actor, looking back at their own life and trying to understand what they have been doing. So my question to you here, Sanjay, would be that what led you to it? What is this particular reason that led you to actually writing a memoir? I know you talked about the pandemic and so on, but that seemed more like, just a window of time. But what actually makes you want to kind of capture your life in print now?
So actually, my experience with memoirs goes back to reading Farewell to Cricket by Don Bradman. That was my first experience of reading an autobiography. And at that time, I used to read mostly sports biographies and sports autobiographies. The first creative memoir or autobiography that read, and it still stays in my mind, is Moon's a Balloon by David Niven. And it had a lot of colorful material for a 17-year-old to read, more than anything else. But since then, I have, during the years, read quite a few memoirs and biographies. And maybe around 7-8 years, I got a chance to read Charlie Chaplin's own autobiography, where he specifically says that he waited much longer than most people to write this book because he had more to say. And I was pretty much convinced by that argument. And I even actually put up a post in social media in referencing some concert that I sang somewhere and said that when I write my biography, I'll give more details about this. So I had no plans to really write this. But actually what happened was post-pandemic, more than pandemic, post-pandemic, a lot of changes were happening in my musical choices and musical career, especially. And I'm also a keen student of history and historical events, and I read and stuff like that. So I believe that these changes that happen at different points of time, even they are documented at the same time, they bring to life a kind of better understanding of the perspective that what happened, the events that happened, and things like that. So for me, in a personal way, I thought much more has happened in the last couple of years than the regular things that happened to me over the last 35 years. So I thought this would be a time to get myself to write whatever was going through my mind and all those things that happened. And at the same time, look back and find out the process that led to what is happening today. That was the main reason why I wrote it, more than anything else.
So very recently, I was just, listening to some kind of I think an interview or I don't know, a podcast of sorts. And there was this mention by Sriram in it about how you introduced him to the Music Academy library. And I was very struck by that because, you always see Sriram as this person who's got probably like Wikipedia plus encyclopedia plus everything kind of locked away in his brain. And I was very, very, and this happened like about 4 days ago, so as I was reading your book. And it kind of tied in with two things. One, of course, is that in the book itself, you talk about how you keep sourcing new material, to sing, and obviously, which makes you like a library ghoul in that sense, that you're always there and looking at stuff and trying to find new things, and not just the Music Academy library, but source material wherever. Now, what is it that makes you want to look for new material? I'm just very curious about that because Carnatic music has so much already existing material, but there is obviously some lacuna which makes you want to find something else that is, or I don't know, not a lacuna maybe, but maybe probably something that excites you by doing this. So would you talk a little bit about why is it that you look for new material?
So basically, the first spark that happens is you get bored of what you're doing. Because you're doing every time, you think before a concert, I'm singing this, I'm singing this, I'm singing this. And then over a period of time, after say 10, 15 concerts, why am I doing the same thing? So then how do I refresh myself or how do I change what I'm doing? So in that sense, this sourcing new material is always the first trigger, in the sense that when I go and look for new material, then you immediately look at musical material, of course, primarily. And this entire concept of searching and how to source these new materials was shown by my guru, Calcutta Krishnamurti, because he would always do it on his own. At a time when people didn't even care about singing new material, but he would source them, make them musical musically expressible, and then teach that to his students. So he would always encourage us and say, go in, look for new material, sing. Don't worry about whether it's familiar or unfamiliar, because you can make it familiar by singing it more often. And if more people listen to it, it becomes familiar. So that's the route for artists to take. It is unfortunate that the ones who are popular are less daring, and the more daring people are not so popular. So most times these new materials get, and by hook or crook, I happen to be both at the same time. So it worked for me over the years, and that's one of the big things.
No, so is there a kind of process you follow? Like, do you say that, I'm looking for a particular kind of material, like, or, I'm looking for something that I would be able to set to music? So how do you go about it? Because that is like something very, very interesting for a classical musician to do. To give you like an example of this, I mean, the last time I've heard something about, something like this, on this scale that you do is there is this cellist, Pablo Casals. So he found a set of music written by Bach for the cello. And he found that in an old bookshop somewhere in Barcelona. And then he took it and he completely, kind of set it to music. And today, I think it's one of his probably best pieces of music that he plays, or played, So in that sense, there is a whole process that, the artist himself has to go through, or to find the material, then you find it, and then what do you do with it, and how do you treat it? So if you could take us a little through that.
So initially, like in my early years, my sources were my gurus, mostly because they would teach me songs, and then suddenly in my guru's house, especially KSK Mama's house, he had lots of books that were lying in his shelves and all that. So he would teach me a song, and then I would ask him for the book, and I would flip through the pages. And then I would say, what about this song? And then he will immediately sing it, because he knew all the songs in that book. Oh. So there are many times when there is a book called Indian Songs, which just has lyrics, not even music, published by Samamurthy, P. Samamurthy. And there are just small booklets, like these bhajan notebooks that you get in Balvihar classes and things like that. Small books. And there was a set of 5 books. And one day I was just looking and asked him, what is this? So I just took it out, opened it, looked at some of the things. And every song, without the notation, he was just singing as I was. So he kind of put the seed in my mind to go through this whole process really. Once he left, in the sense, of course, I had enough material that he had already pointed me out to. But then your ego will not allow you to just, follow that. Then what have I done, So that question, when you address, and you want to have your own part in that whole thing. So the Music Academy Library was my primary source in the beginning, because here I knew I could go and look for whatever I wanted. And then what happened was, some of these concert engagements would require me to take that effort. Like, for instance, I met Prince Ramavarma, and he started calling me to the Swati festival, and I would go almost twice a year, one for the Navaratri and once for the Kudramaliga. And so you have to sing new songs. You can't just sing the same set of songs. He won't call you again. So, so then that made me go into the books and to see the songs. And then, of course, recordings are also available. So you tend to compare the versions that are available and then the versions that are there in the book. You see the changes that musicians have made. And then you start evaluating whether those changes are in your own creative space or not. So sometimes you find a song, you don't like what is being rendered, or you don't like what is this. Then you take a few liberties here and there and, put it to suit your own imagination or, process, and then you go and sing it. So this is one area, like the Swati concert. I also had committed to this series of concerts every December for Margari Mahotsavam on Jaya TV. So I would choose a theme every year specifically for sourcing new material. So every year I would take a Tamil composer or a set of composers, and then I would go searching for material and get songs around that and sing them. So like this, basically it was almost like, there would be a concert, then I would try to sing something new. I would sing something new, then another concert would come. So that will keep happening continuously. And these times, mostly what happened was, there is a difference. As I'm growing older, the music doesn't excite me as much as the lyric. And then I want to contribute my own music. So then, nowadays, what happens is I seem to be setting more to music than actually learning from the music that is there. because I am going through that creative phase where I want to put something to tune. I want to put something. For instance, I come to Bangalore for a concert. I want to sing a new Kannada song. If I want to sing a new Kannada song, then I look for a song that's not popular, that's not sung by anybody, so that nobody would ask me, why did you change the raga of Krishna Ni Begane? So I just choose a song that nobody sings, so nobody knows what ragam to sing it. Then I can choose the raga that I want. So like I take an Akka Mahadevi poem and I look at it, somebody has sung somewhere in Karagarapriya. Okay, then I go and say, okay, remove that one note from Karagarapriya and make it Narayani and then tune it in Narayani. Why Narayani? Because there are Tyagaraja Kirtanas in Narayani, but no other songs in Narayani. So okay, let's create something in Kannada in that. So this kind of, wanting to add to the overall repository. Corpus, exactly. That's one of the big things that works through this.
And I also think, like, most musicians after a certain point want to do it, whether it's, MDR or GNB, and, so many of them have been doing it. And I guess at some point you need to kind of take ownership of the music that you have. And this is probably one of the best ways of doing it. Now, okay, so we Lakshmi Narayana Iyer, your aunt, and then your grand aunt Rukmini Rajgopal, then K.S. Krishnamurti or KSK Mama, as you've said, the Mama thing that is part of the Carnatic lingo. So my question here was that, when the whole musical world likes to dwell on Banis and the legacy of Banis. And for those of you who don't know, Bani is like a school, okay, a school of singing. So you, in that sense, do not, or do you belong to any specific Bani? You don't.
No, I don't
right?
belong to anybody.
So that my question was based on that because I realized that you don't actually. So do you think Banis are limiting?
I don't want to give a blanket statement dismissing something like Banis, because people who conform to Banis have their own artistic expression within the confines of that, and they have also managed to expand the Bani's contribution in their own ways. Like if you want to take, say, the Danamal Bani, for instance, definitely after Danamal, T. Brinda had her own way of expanding the Bani or including other things and redefining it in her own way, or T. Vishwanathan did it in his own way. So Banis, if they can be in that way growing into something bigger, but in today's context, it's very difficult to adhere to something like a Bani, because the demands and the results are never commensurate to each other. So they don't match. So I would say that it will be very difficult for a young musician to stick to a Bani and convince people that, of what he's doing. I mean, that way, I think it's very difficult. It's not so easy.
Did you ever miss having that kind of legacy?
Only to the extent that I lost opportunities to sing in some places.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Because they wouldn't call me since I didn't have an authentic Bani.
Okay. No, so this is a question. I mean, I've been wanting to ask you, right? I mean, even before I read the book. So it was just something that I wanted to ask you, and I was thinking, like, because I hear so much, so one of the things that I love doing is listening to all the lekdems on Carnatic music. Okay, so every day I'm listening to at least one lekdem, and I constantly keep coming across this word, Bani, and there's some times where people it's almost like that is what decides what kind of a musician you're going to be. And then I would think that, is it limiting? Does it limit a musician, or do you think you would have been a different kind of a musician if you were caught within the confines of one?
Actually, early on when I learned from my grand aunt, she kind of had a Bani in the sense that she did give me instructions which are very similar to how Banis operate. In the sense, she would say, don't sing this phrase, or இந்த பாட்டெல்லாம் வேண்டாமே, இந்த கீர்த்தனை எதுக்கு போய் இதை பாடு, அந்த மாதிரி. So I mean, those are all basically choices that are put on you, saying that under the guide of Bani or school, நம்ம ஸ்கூல்ல எப்படி பாடலாம் அப்படி. But I don't think I would have ever fitted into any Bani because I was too free-spirited.
Yeah, there's a very interesting anecdote in the book where he talks about how his mother takes him to meet this very senior violinist, Kanyakumari. And he says, I can't give up cricket. I can't, so I can't go to her. So I think one of the things about the Bani is also that almost that very rigorous kind of a learning atmosphere. And if you are free spirited, probably it's going to always be, there's going to be some kind of contention with the guru. And in fact, you do mention it also at one point with your grandaunt, how there was friction coming. And so at what point is it that Sanjay Subramaniam, the singer, starts rebelling?
So this is interesting because what happened was I had just learned some song. I don't remember the exact composition, which my grandaunt had not taught me. And no, I think it was some song that she was teaching me, and somehow I didn't agree with that version. I must have been say 20, 21 at that time. And for the first time, she actually told me, இப்படி சொன்னேன்னா அப்ப நான் எப்படி சொல்லி கொடுக்கறது அப்படின்னு. I mean, how can I teach you? I mean, that had never arisen in the past till that day. It was almost I remember the moment. I just don't remember the exact song, but I know that something of that nature happened, and I couldn't. Somehow, I refused to accept that song, and she refused to let it go. In the sense, so that was clearly a time when I couldn't continue on a day-to-day basis because I was going every day. There was a time for a couple of 2-3 years when every day I would go to class and I would sing and she would teach me, and it was like that. It was almost like she would ask me to come and make me sing. So that made a difference. And my guru KSK was the exact opposite, in the sense that he would say anything is okay, you just sing. And he would teach me, and in fact he would say, as a teacher he would say, ஒரு தடவை சொல்லுவோம் தெரியலன்னா அப்புறம் போக வேண்டியதான். I mean, why should I insist on making you learn what I'm trying to teach? That was his attitude, because he didn't have, he said, I don't have the patience to ensure that you sing every line that I ask you to sing. If you are smart enough, you pick it up. So,
yeah, learn as you go, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. I'm just going to take a small detour here and ask Krupa a couple of questions. The first question, of course, is that, Krupa is an acclaimed writer herself. She's written a work of non-fiction, and then she's written a novel, and she's probably going to have another book out. Not probably, she's going to have a book out next year. So, so there is this whole process of, saying that Krupa has her own style of writing. So how is it for you to collaborate with Sanjay, the whole process of it?
Yeah, so when Sanjay came up with the idea of the book, I jumped at it because for me, as journalists in the art beat in Madras, we're always chasing Sanjay.
Okay, we're going to take a small break here to just tell everybody that the book opens with Sanjay saying how they'd read Kripa's novel, and he and his wife had read her novel, and they knew that it was Krupa who had to be the collaborator. Okay, so
thank you. But when Sanjay actually asked me to write the book, I knew I had to immediately say yes. I was 2 weeks postpartum then. I was mad to say yes, but I had to say yes because as a journalist in the art beat in Chennai, I know how rare an interview with Sanjay is, and to get to do a full-length book is like a real dream come true. And so my journalist from my past life was saying, you cannot let this opportunity go. And so for me, the book's format, the way it has come out, is entirely my editor, Ajita. So I kind of, at 2 weeks in the haze of, having a newborn and not getting enough sleep, I called her and told her that I have to do this book. You have to help me. I don't know what I'm going to do. And she said, don't do your 4 years of research and 3 years of writing and all of that. And she actually walked me through how I could practically do this book. And so we scheduled 10 interviews every month, 1 interview a month. And then I'd go to Sanjay's house, and then I'd interview him at length. And then I'd come back home and try to write it up. And then I'd have more questions about that interview, and then I'd go back, and then we'd finish a new set of interviews, and then we'd revisit the previous interview. And so in this way, we worked through 10 interviews, and most of it, all the interviews happened in person, and then all of the editing and everything happened over Google Docs. And we were trying to work remotely, and was my once a month getaway from the madness of motherhood. And so one of the things that was the process of this book that was exciting for me as a writer was that I was able to practice ventriloquism, which is what we're constantly trying to do in fiction. So you're trying to write as another person. And for me, this was like at such a large scale. And the person I was trying to write as is a real person who's going to have to approve what I'm trying to say in his voice. And so that was very exciting, actually. I feel like it was a big learning experience as well. And I sort of also really enjoyed listening to Sanjay talk about art and the practice of art. And I was just telling them the other day, Sanjay and his wife Aarti, that I stole an idea from him and I'm putting it in one of my short stories that he gave me when we met, about Rilke writing about Cézanne's paintings and the blues. Sanjay said, talking to SRD, trying to describe how it was talking to the Nadaswaram Vidwan SRD, his guru, was like Rilke trying to describe the blues in Cézanne's paintings. And Rilke fumbles for those words and then ends up inventing names for those blues. And so I freely stole this anecdote and putting it in one of my stories. So if you ever read that story in the future, it came from him. So this kind of exchange I really enjoyed.
So before I go on to the next question, I wanted to ask Sanjay if you'll sing Ramasamy Dudana.
Oh. I thought you were just going to ask me to sing. Ramasamy Dudan Nanada, Ravana Ramasamy Dudan Nanada, Adada Ravana Nanada, En Per Hanumanada. Ramasamy Dudan Nanada. See, without accompaniments, I can't do justice.
Not at all.
But, thank you.
So why I asked him to specifically sing this is because I thought when I was reading the book, there's an effervescence. There's a kind of purposeful effervescence to the way the song is sung. I think the ragam and everything, the lyrics, all of it. And I thought there was so much of that in the book. So it was like something that it just kind of hit me. And I was like, one of the things that I like to do when I read anything is to try and find a kind of song that goes with it, with the mood of the book. And for me, this was like, I thought, okay, it's not Tunbam Nergail and all, none of that, but this one, that kind of caught it, because look at it. What is Hanuman doing there? He's like an ambassador and he's very purposeful, but at the same time, there is a sort of effervescence to the whole thing. And I thought that was the echo that I found in the book. So how did that come about? Because memoirs can be sometimes grim, can be, very, very kind of what they call misery memoirs. So it's none of that. Yes, obviously, as an artist, there is a lot of trials and tribulations that you go through. But I thought overall there was a certain lightness to this memoir. And is that because, Sanjay, you think of yourself as a very kind of, you said you're a free spirit, but also somebody who doesn't allow too much to kind of overwhelm you? Or is it just a kind of literary persona?
No, I don't know. It probably goes with my overall persona because I'm generally cheerful. not the moody, ruminating type of a guy. I may people who know me know that, but sometimes I may have a slightly gruff exterior, specifically to ward off people. It's just a tactic. But other than that, but I don't know. Artistically, I don't think I have allowed any of that to come in the way, because see, one thing is, I believe that a performer needs to engage with his audience, his or her audience. And it is important that when you are engaging with the audience, the contact is very clearly established. And that contact for me is primarily joy. That's my primary emotion, for me to reach people. See, I'm not this, let's say, this peace or, slowly going into a trance, and then let's all go into this trance, and no, I'll make some noise, let's clap and let's have some fun. I mean, this is a very simple philosophy, and in the middle of all that, we find those moments of reflection, or whatever it is, and because I believe that all life has everything to offer, so that's why probably the book.
No, I mean, so which is why, so it's in that sense, I mean, I mean it in the best of the ways. There's a breeziness to it, which is not usually characteristic of memoirs, in the sense that they always tend to be a little kind of like, they pull you down, right? But this doesn't. It just makes you think, yeah, here's a man who's found what he wants to do, and now he's ready to, find other ways of singing as well. So that brings me to the next question, which is that Sanjay Subramaniam, the Carnatic musician, and there is somewhere you say that if you had asked you this a few years ago, you would have said no, you would only sing Carnatic music. But today you've kind of moved into singing for Coke Studio, Tamil, and this collaboration with Ilayaraja. So where you are experimenting with different forms and different ways of singing, where you say that you're not just a musician, but you're a singer now, right? You're just a musician, not Carnatic musician alone. So what do you think changed for you to come into that area where you think that music need no longer be bound by only a traditional way of singing?
See, when we started off in our career, these things are always happening parallelly. See, for instance, even when I was younger, people would ask me, have you sung in a film? Or would you do a devotional album? Or would you do fusion? I mean, these things have been along with me. But the thing was, somewhere along in my mind, I was fixed on being this classical Carnatic musician, and the music itself had taken hold of me in a very crazy way, because I was besotted with the art form in that sense. So I didn't even have time to think about other art forms or doing other things, because there was so much inside the art form that you want to do. You want to learn this song, you want to sing this Pallavi, you want to go there and sing a concert, you want to sing with these accompanists, you want to go on tour to the America and sing concerts. I mean, you read about something and then you want to. So everything is happening within that space of Carnatic music, and anything else would be a distraction. That's how I viewed it for many years. And to be fair, I think I did let go of a lot of opportunities that came my way during that time, because I was not interested. It was not that sometimes people would say, "Adala vendalla," appadi illa. Enakku vendam. There's a difference between saying I don't want to do it and saying people should not do it. That's not what it was. But what changed mostly was that, one is age, because you grow older and then you have more time to look back and see what you have done. And always this question was, would you sing? Would you sing? The first question was always cinema, because that was the biggest thing, And at every point of time, I remember one senior Mridangam artist, "Onne onnu padamma. Onnu aidadu. Innu 4 per nama kacheriku varuvalla." But he would say it in a very nice way. "Vendam amma potam paapom." Ipdiye illa. So in a way, that was a trigger. Those things were always running parallelly. And then you would place these impossible conditions. What if Ilayaraja called you for a Kamal Hassan movie produced by AVM, starring Rajinikanth as villain? Chumma, some impossible combination that, adu mari vandha paadikalam. That was not, that's not how things work, So, but then suddenly but a couple of things came when I was going through this pandemic and all that, and I told myself, okay, let's see what can we do. Maybe we can move out of this comfort zone. Maybe I'm ready to move out. in a way, I was also tired of the rigmarole of singing concerts every 3 days. I mean, for 15, 20 years, you are singing 120 concerts a year. So that's like a concert every 3 days, every 2 days. So 120 concerts a year, each concert is like 3 hours, 3.5 hours. It takes a toll in its own way. And you don't want that monotony to set in too much. So the first step is you cut back, So instead of 120, you do 90 or 60 or 50, whatever it is. And of course, your finances have to match up to that cutback. Whether it allows for it. Because after all, I've been only a professional Carnatic musician, and I concentrated only on making money from singing concerts. Like for instance, I taught people, but that was not an income source for me. My primary income source was concerts. So now when you cut back on your concerts also, you have to ensure that that gap is not there. So family is still young family. So once my son had also gone to college, and then he had finished, and I knew that they are settled, and the pressure is not there on me. I can also think and relax a little bit and not give so much thought. And Carnatic music wise also, I mean, I've had a good run, to be fair. So no regrets, So I've done most of the thing. Maybe one or two things I might have wanted to do. I wanted to sing a Panchan or a Pallavi at some time. I never did it. I don't think I'll do it anymore. So like this, small goals, like maybe 100 at Lord's, Mary, that kind of, small things that you like. I wanted to learn 100 Varnams. I've learned 78. Maybe I will finish that. So things like that, I want to record a song in every Melakarta. I've done close to 55 or 56. Things like that, just some random targets like that. But beyond that, you've sung in all the main festivals, you've sung everywhere, you've done. So, then something comes out of the blue, somebody calls and asks, would you do this? Now, then the trigger gets, it explodes inside me. So what? Why not? So that's how the whole thing started. Of course, what came and my response and that thing never materialized, because I thought that will be the perfect platform for me to, showcase it to people and say, I'm ready to do other things. That never happened, which is why I had to take the initiative, because I went and met Sean Rosen and said, listen, this is happening. And so that's how the whole process happened.
So do you think you'll be singing more film songs now?
Absolutely. If people call me, I will sing.
Okay.
I have no problem.
So you don't find it, so my question is that someone as senior as you, well, I understand when you're working with Ilayaraja, but when someone as senior as you and someone who understands music, it's like if someone were to, ask me to write something, then I have a basic understanding of what I'm doing. So it's the same in that sense, the years we put into it. So when you have probably a youngish music director with not too much understanding or exposure, or let's say musical wisdom, would you be able to kind of handle that?
See, I'm very clear when I go for these assignments. Here, I am just a technician. See, I am a singer. I have been asked to come and sing. No, it's their vision. It's not my vision. I have no role other than listening to instructions. So you tell me what to sing, I'll sing. Are you satisfied with that output? And do you think this will work for your needs? Because that is why they're calling me. If a music director calls me to sing a song, he believes that this voice is going, or this musical expression is going to help him in his overall audio soundscape that he's creating for that film. So, which means he is the guy with the vision. I can't even judge that until the film comes out and I know whether it's worked or not. So at that moment, I'm not in I don't even put myself in a position to say whether this is, is it good or is it bad, or I don't do that.
You just do what's required of you.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. So I'm now going to come to this question, which I think, I think every creative person, it doesn't matter what form of creativity, but if, to be able to build a career in that world, which is so kind of iffy in that sense, right? You need like strong support. You need support from your family. In your case, you talk about, your parents at first, and then later, of course, Arti. And so do you think that is one of the most integral part of a creative person's success?
Absolutely, unless you're single.
Unless you're single, yeah. No, but even if you're single,
No,
then
if,
it becomes difficult, right?
See,
Yeah.
the point is that if you are single, then you are not, obviously, you are not bound to a relationship
Yeah.
in any way or committed to it. And you can think for yourself in most of the decisions, But here, like for instance, like how I explained, from 120 concerts, if I have to cut back to 70 concerts, the situation should allow it, no? So if you are single, you can judge that on your own. Here, you have to judge it in conjunction with the people who matter around you. So that way, it's definitely integral. See, creatively, what happens is artists are different, people are different. So it worked for me. It may not work for somebody else. Somebody else may have a different formula. Like I know of people where the artist is separate, the family is separate. The artist exists in his own space. When he comes into the family, the artist exits. I know of such people also. So that works. If it works for them, it works for them. So then I can't say, it should be integral that they should be a part. That's not where we're going, right? So
No, but I think to be able to kind of let go of many of the things, and to be able to just be yourself when you're singing. If you do not have that bulwark of the family supporting, then sometimes maybe it doesn't happen to that extent. This is something that I'm constantly asking, any person that I meet, how integral is the family to, building your career in a creative world?
It has to be, you can never standardize this. It has to be on an individual basis because you find artists who say, I would have done so much more, but for
my family,
whatever.
Yeah.
Or, my most creative output was when my relationship was blossoming, but moment that went down, then I stopped writing or I stopped singing. So those things you read about in those misery memoirs that you mentioned specifically.
Yeah.
But that's also valid. I'm not dismissing it, but I'm just saying that also happens. So you can never pin it down to, like you can also say that I've known great Carnatic musicians who have no family life. The family is just like employees in a company. That's it. The wife had 2 children and that's it. She's at home. This man is gallivanting 24/7. Or this woman is whatever.
Yeah.
So, that also happens. There are musicians like that. So,
Yeah, okay. So, I want to do a rapid fire with you. This is all based on the book.
okay.
Okay. Favorite food? You have to say it very quickly. It's
Very
rapid
quickly.
fire.
Yeah. Okay, Italian.
Okay. Dubai. Specific.
Steak.
Okay. Okay. Favorite composer?
Harikesh Nalumuthiya Babu.
Okay. One kriti you don't want to ever sing?
I was just thinking of it the other day. Blank. Sorry. I can't say it out loud. I might sing it tomorrow.
Okay. No, but you don't want to sing it as of now.
As of now, I told recently that I don't want to sing Papanasam Sivan songs for some time. 3 days back, and I sang Saravana Baba the other day. So,
Okay. Favorite Rajinikanth movie?
Thillamulla.
Okay. Right. Okay. And if you were stuck on a desert island and just had one song you could listen to, which one would it be?
Ilayaraja's Oru Kaviyam from the film Aruvadai Naal.
Okay. And if you had just one book you could take with you, what would
Old Man and the Sea.
Okay. Right. On that note, we will open the questions to the audience.
And I wanted to be a neurosurgeon, but ended up being a finance professional. Okay, coming back, there are a lot of Jambawans in Sangeeta, music field. But among them, I feel, Sanjay stands out as Chiranjeevi, Hanuman. And, I wish his songs are always have the Chiranjeevi with them. They are ever living. And I also wish, Sanjay has got that power. And, I wish at least he lives for 120 years, if not more. Okay, coming back to the question. The first question is, okay, my association started with him about mid-80s and little beyond, where he used to conduct, I don't know whether this is covered in the book, probably not, but he used to conduct a lot of quiz programs for, freshers. I'm not sure if he remembers, but it's a paper quiz where, even I tried answering some of the questions, even though I am new to music. Okay, that is how my association with Sanjay started. And about his prowess, I said this is Sanjay, is a jumbo
Excuse
on
me,
two.
sir. Please ask the question because there'll be other questions.
Okay,
too.
fair enough. Okay, I will cut short. First question is, had you not become a music talented person, would you have become, considering your efforts and all that, I'm sure you would have become, if not a FM or something even beyond, a World Bank chief or whatever. Any regrets that you could have done, something much, much beyond, for the entire world?
No, I don't have any regrets.
Okay.
No
Or
regrets.
Wishes.
Wishes.
Maybe, even now it's not too late.
Of course, I told
Yeah.
the wish. I wanted to score 100 in Lords. I scored.
I have one or two more questions,
No,
if you don't mind.
we'll come back to you if there are other questions, and then after
okay, I'll
that.
come back if time permits.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any questions? Yeah, there's a question there.
Will you consider publishing the 10 interviews in the raw audio format? You're such a great storyteller.
No, there's a lot of material that cannot be published. Because we have an editor here who ensured that. So,
Hello, Sanjay sir. Big fan. So in this conversation, we spoke a lot about Pani, right? And since we are in the Margari season as well, in my experience, what I have seen is that especially in sabas, there is some level of rigidity about you need to be from a certain school or you can only sing certain things. And even with what happened with T.M. Krishna, like when Music Academy awarded him, there was a lot of backlash from certain musicians about, is he the type of singer we want to talk about? Because he is not a purely Carnatic singer. His political views came into questioning and things like that. So what I'm trying to understand is, do you see this rigidity softening when it comes to the Sabha circuit in Chennai? Now that more and more Carnatic musicians are open to trying new formats, doing new genres of music, is that something you see changing in the future?
see, anything can change. There is no such thing as permanence for anything. Everything has a shelf life. So anything will change. Tomorrow, if there are more musicians coming out and doing things outside the so-called rigid space that has been established or that you recognize as being visible today, and it is successful, like it's not enough if you go to those concerts, you have to bring another 3,000 people to ensure that those people can make a living out of that music, then the change will come. Otherwise, status quo will remain because lives are at stake. If people are making a living out of this art form, then unless you create a space where that is taken care of, what is the motivation? See, who is going to pay for all that? No, BIC will give you free programs, but that won't work there. No, so whatever changes happens, if it gets support, that is more primary. See, on paper, theory, we can talk everything, or on social media, you can talk anything. Like we sit here and talk about Elon Musk and Donald Trump. We don't even know what's happening in that country. So similarly, you can talk about Barneys, you can talk about Carnatic music, you can talk about this, that, and all that. But on the ground, who is the guy who's singing or who is the person who's singing and who's listening and are they paying for it and is it sustainable? That is what determines art. Then you will have these outliers. There'll be one person sitting in one corner producing something and then suddenly they will find him. Like suddenly people found M.D. Ramanathan today. There are people in the audience here who have heard M.D. Ramanathan, but with even 10% of the number of people sitting here. But today they hail him as something else. I have heard MDR concert as a 10-year-old, 12-year-old boy in Shastri Hall. It was not houseful or anything like that. But that's no reflection of his music or what he conceived. So,
how do you see the difference in experience in performing in a large concert hall versus a more intimate Baitak-like setting?
See, both cases, my primary engagement will be with the listener, So sometimes you could be in a large concert hall and the contact is immediate. It's like a mind game, because as you are singing, the energy that's coming from there. Some people say that I'd rather sing for 10 people than for 1,000 people. It's fine, but if the 10 people are not interested in listening to you, what's the point? So ultimately, it doesn't matter. As a singer, I don't see that much difference in terms of intimacy. Creates a slightly different tenor in the singing. I think it makes a difference, but it's for the listener to tell me what is different. I can't, because as a performer, it's all spontaneous. Most of what I'm saying today happens on the stage at that point of time. So you can only reflect back and say, oh, you sang this that day, but you didn't sing it like that there. So then you can do that post-mortem and tell me, but I will not know as I'm singing. That's the thing.
Namaskaram. With the due respect to you, slightly frivolous question. You seem to be passionate about cricket. You're experimenting with other forms of music. So if you were to compose a tune to represent the Indian innings that happened, what would it be?
I'll call upon Bach. No tunes, please.
Thank you, Sanjay and Krupa. It's really insightful to hear about your process and to be able to listen to you speak as well as sing. My question is, from the interview process, you had 10 interviews. Like, is there an example of like something that dawned on you or came out of that interview process, or a way you thought about things that that you wanted to put through in the book? I mean, was the interview process integral to kind of what you chose to say in the book and things like that?
Yeah, definitely. Because I think, to be fair, I think she will explain it better. But they had actually laid out the structure of the book based on the material that was available about me. And then once I thought that was almost perfect. So there was hardly anything else. Then it's just a personal choice. I would like to talk about so and so or so and so, etc., etc. But mostly, I think the structure between Krupa and Ajita, I think they laid it out very beautifully. So in terms of, most of what you see in the book, I did my job in saying the story, but putting it together in the form that is, it's what they've done. So.
For me, actually, what was the most surprising thing to hear about was in his Sangeeta Kalanidhi chapter, in a chapter in which you're expecting the artist to sort of gloat, he went into a really reflective space and he spoke about his voice, and I don't want to spoil it, so you'll have to read the book to find out what he actually says about his voice and how what his journey with his own voice has been. But for me, that was, it was really like, as an artist, as a struggling writer, you're always looking at other people thinking, oh, that guy has it all figured out. But then when you sit with another artist and then you're listening to them and then you're listening to their struggles, but then this is not a misery memoir, as Anita rightly pointed out. So this is somebody who's actually acting on, whatever he feels is problematic. So for me, that was actually the best part of the book. And that and the conversations about his gurus, those were the two parts of the book I really enjoyed listening to and writing.
Mama, what's the most important value you imbibed from your guru KSK Mama? And number two, these days a lot of musicians like for maths, for Kanaka, they go to different artists. Have you mentored like with any other artists for like your maths, especially while Kalpana Swarams and Nerval?
So KSK Mama, the biggest thing was he allowed me to be myself. So that was the biggest lesson takeaway. As far as maths and all is concerned, I have not specifically gone to anybody for mentoring like that. My guru SRD was pretty proficient, so he put me on some parts. And of course, we as a community musicians at that age, we exchanged a lot of info with each other. So we were actually helping out, or helping each other almost. So like colleagues taught me so many things that senior musicians, accompanists, they all taught me so many things. Violinists, mridangists, they all taught me. So, I mean, in that sense, you are always learning every day.
Yeah, Hari here. I'm also from Raipeta. So this is actually a reflection of another singer who said, unless you are Sanjay, it's better not to be in stage and trying to make a living out of it. So try to find your own space. If you have any suggestions for tier 2, tier 3, if I, for want of words, I'm just calling tier 2, tier 3 singers. Any advice for them?
This is the toughest question to answer in that sense, because what works for you doesn't work for somebody else, you know, in the sense that each one has to find their own way of getting something out of it. And somewhere along the line, the individual's personality will take over. You know, musicians will be musicians, vendors will be vendors. I mean, what I mean is, and artists will be artists. Very rarely they will, you know, intersect. So intersections are the successful artists who also are successful, who are great or who are good and who are, you know. But sometimes that thing will be there. That imbalance will always be there. And for younger artists or next generation artists, they will have to figure it at their own pace. We did it our own way. Nobody told us. If I'd listened to what my seniors told me, I wouldn't be where I am. Sorry. Because for all the musical advice they gave, career advice, they were all wrong. The first thing they said was, don't take music as a profession. So, none of them would have. இப்பெல்லாம் கச்சேரிலாம் வேண்டாங்கிறேன். நீனா CA படிச்சிருக்கே வேலைக்கு போ. அப்படியே பாடு வர்ற கச்சேரி அப்படின்னு. That was the advice they gave. A lot of them gave. Only after you reach a level of success, நீ கரெக்டா பண்ணே, நான் அப்பவே சொன்னேன். No chance.
How does engaging with Tamil enhance or change your musical process, if at all?
See, one thing is actually, it's a good question, because before I engaged with Tamil, my engagement with language itself was very minimal in the music, because I was mostly interested in the musical aspects and not so much into the language. But the moment I started engaging with Tamil in a very serious way, I understood the importance of articulating the lyric better. And automatically, that experience translated to my singing Telugu songs or Kannada songs better. You know, if you see the same song, if I've sung 30 years back, the recording, you'll know the difference. I didn't even care whether I was singing the Sahithyam correctly or not. For me, the phrase or the musicality was more. Now it's not like that. At least I take more care to at least articulate better and things like that. So that way, it was only because I engaged with Tamil in a very personal way that I could use that experience to other languages as well.
This is a question for Krupa, because you spoke when we were discussing very briefly with the book of how you are to be the ventriloquist, and also because you've come from a journalism sort of background and you've written your book. What is the writing step like that? How much of you is in the word? I mean, of course, there are 10 interviews and all that, but how much of it was you trying to interpret what Sanjay is saying, and at the end of there's the review process and there's the approval process, but I just still want to know how much of you is in that.
So in that sense, Sanjay was a very cool customer, because I went to him with a pitch and he was like, yeah, let's just do this. And I was like, really? You like what I came up with? And because also it comes from, because I've been listening to Sanjay for about 10, 12 years myself, and I really have been trying to understand his music as well as a fan for 10 years. And so I had some understanding of, so this is in that sense, the book is structured from, I guess, a person who's been sort of from a distance watching a singer. And then now there was I had a certain idea of how we could do this book. And then with the editor and Sanjay, we sort of worked through that process. And in fact, if you look at our rich document in the final book, it's like 85% sort of matches. So thanks. I know you get it.
Thank you, Sanjay, for being here with all of us. When I hear you sing, I feel that every kriti, you are putting your whole being into it. That must be exhausting, isn't it?
Thank you, but that's the price one pays, I suppose. But no, it's not so exhausting as I make it out to be. I think it's a role that I have to play, but it's okay. It's not so bad.
Good evening, Sanjay. This is a wonderful moment here. The joy that you talk about, you have brought in here. I think what Ariyakudi was in his time, Sanjay Subramaniam is today to Carnatic music.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think, to put it very prosaically, you have ticked all the boxes. You are very creative, very intelligent. You are a path breaker. You are an icon in every way. I am saying this after listening to Carnatic music for 65 years. If there are 2 or 3 things that need to be changed in Carnatic music today, what would you do? You are empowered to do it, let us say. What would you do?
It's a very tough question. I don't even want that kind of power, frankly, because I think art should evolve on its own in a way, you know. And Carnatic music is the performing Carnatic music, the performance, Carnatic music performance that we listen to is a very new art form. It's a very young art form. You know, it's evolved only over the last 100 or 150 years. Heritage is different. You know, this 1,000 years, 2,000 years, that's a different thing. The version that you hear today is like hardly 100, 150 years. So it's a very young art form that's still finding its way into public performance. And before we know, the profiles of the audiences are changing. See, the rapid change that has happened in the last 20, 30 years is very demanding on art forms all over the world, not just Carnatic music. All art forms are, all classical art forms especially, because we define ourselves as classical. See, that is the big, see, if you don't call yourself classical, you can do anything you want, and then the audiences have to support it if they like the sound of it. That's what music is all about. But once you define it as a classical art form, then you are already putting all those boundaries around you. And then you have to convince the audience that there is something in it for you to enjoy. So this process is becoming more and more difficult because anybody sitting in any corner of the world can get access to anything. So it becomes choices. So you're competing against so many things. Like 50 years back, the dominant form of entertainment in South India was Carnatic music. Everywhere you turn in a film, if you go to Tyagaraja Bhavadar, you'll be singing Jarukesi. So, I mean, it hit you wherever you went. You went to a stage play, the people sang Carnatic music. You went to the temple, then Nadaswaram played Carnatic music. If you went to the temple and somebody was doing Archana, so Slokam was said in a Ragam. So it was everywhere. But that's not the case today. So how can you work that out? No? So then you'll have to allow. Maybe AI will find a way.
Good evening, Anna. I'm Uday from Tirupati. Small question. So, is music limited to certain areas, or limited areas like Bangalore or Chennai or few towns? Why I'm saying this is, I never knew before lockdown. I was facing some difficulties in my life. So, whenever there is some difficulty, we listen devotional songs. We know only 2 movies, that is Ramadasu and Annamaya. Whenever we get difficulties, we listen those songs. So before that, I have seen few movies which was taken by Vishwanath, that is Shankarabharanam. In that movie, I have watched, listened to Broche whatever. I want to listen one more version of that song in YouTube. The next to that Shankarabharanam movie song, your song is there. That's a Sarah song, right? But you are joyfully singing that. Why this person is singing like this? Is he doing something? That time I felt like that, but after listening to Nannu Vidichi Bro Burma, that time I become fan of you. Why I'm saying this is, like me I used to sing Annamaya songs. I used to get prizes in school days. In college days, this Varnamayram Surya, I'm a big Surya fan, though I'm from Tirupati. I used to get prizes in college days. But at certain point, like this film music, right? I'm not getting that kind of interest. Then I started listening you, and I attended each and every concert in Bangalore. So why I'm saying this is, Sachin everybody knows, Ilayarajan everybody knows. In Carnatic music, you are the hero. But few people like me, like hundreds of people in Andhra, nobody knows about you. I'm bringing my wife, brothers, Padammas, Periammas, everybody to these concerts.
The more people you bring, the more people will know about
Yeah,
you.
I'm bringing.
You are doing great service.
Yeah. That's why, I mean, is it limited to certain metropolitan?
No, it's just a choice. See, people should like the sound of it.
Okay.
See, even in Mylapore, my next door neighbor doesn't know me. That's why you don't have to go to Tirupati or Rayalaseema or anything. Here also people. That's okay. I'm happy. I can walk down to the road and get something in the shop and come back and nobody will bother me. Surya, they can't do that, no? So, but that's not true. It's just that the sound of the music should reach people. If people don't like it, they don't like it. It's a choice. You can't force anything, no? That's like that.
Do we have any more time left? Wait, we have other people. You already had your turn.
I don't need a mic anyway.
Yeah, last question.
I've
with this,
attended a lot of concerts of Sanjay. I just want to ask you, how are you able to maintain the intensity of each concert the same level? You keep raising the bar, and we never walk out of a concert saying, "Innikku seriya paadlaka Sanjay."
If you had said it once, I might not have been able to maintain it. So that's what it is, no? What makes so many people come to the concert? It's a feeling of gratitude to all those people. Because as a performer, if you don't feel that, I'm not doing you all a favor. I can't think like that. Somebody can come and tell me, "Sir, you're doing this great service." No, I'm not doing any service. You are doing service by allowing me. See, a society, this is my long-term theory, that a society allows artists to flourish means the society is in a good space. If there is war, there is famine, how can artists, where is the time to think about art? So, which means we are in a fortunately good space where art is being allowed to flourish. And when people take the trouble and come, what better thing I have to do than to give my best, because that is what they want me to do. So, I cannot go there and say, "Oh, today there is a 10% less ticket sales, I will sing 3 songs less." I can't do that. I have to respect. See, for instance, when I advertise a concert at 6:30, I like to start at 6:30. Some people say, "Sir, no, konjam per vanduttom appuram." No, what about the people who have come? Sir, traffic, sir. What about the people who came? They also had traffic, no? So we have to respect them. That I believe in that. So unless we do that, as a performer, how do you?
Last question.
Hi, I have a slightly frivolous question. I've heard that you are a board game aficionado. So what are the games you're playing now, and do you go for strategy-based board games or?
Very much strategy board games. The last one we played is an old game called Careless. So there is a website called Board Game Geek with a 45,000 board game repository. And when I started board gaming, sometime in the late 2000, early 2010s maybe, Careless was number 1. So I got a copy of that game. And the first time we played it back then, 15 years back, we couldn't crack the rules properly and we didn't play it. Then after that, recently we started playing it again and it's been fantastic. So that's the one I'm enjoying right now.
Okay, with that, we'll come to the end of this evening. And I think Vikram is.
First of all, Sanjay, thank you for being yourself. And Krupa, thank you for capturing him so beautifully in this book. And Anita, for the deft moderation today. On a slightly selfish note, and I'm sure people would agree, maybe I have just one small song to close us out as heartfelt gratitude from us at BIC. Thank you.
I'll just say this is an interesting song about asking people to read books. Noolai padi, Tamil noolai padi, Sangat Tamil noolai padi, Kalayil padi, Kadum pagal padi, Malai iravu porul padumbadi noolai padi.
The books are available for sale. Please do pick them up, buy them. And get them signed by the author. And I mean, the singer and the collaborator author.
And Anita's books are also for sale, so please do. We can buy both. And thank you all for coming out on a weekday evening. Have a good evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you.